Okay, I have this is more of a proof of concept, certainly not a product, but it might be, it's an idea that I did do some implementation on. I didn't get as far in my implementation as I had planned to. I know none of the rest of you had that experience in what you were doing. And these folks got really far, so that's cool. But I'll show you what I do have, and I do have a unique feature in my hack. I actually have plumbing involved, which I don't think anyone else can actually claim. It's Water Watcher, which is basically non-intrusive Internet of Things monitoring for at-risk persons. It's a way to attempt to, say you have, well, just advance to the next slide. Go through. Say you have an elderly relative living at home, because more and more folks are, aging in place, I think is the term of art, means basically trying to avoid institutionalization as long as possible, which is a good thing. And in order to do so, maybe this person's not local to you, or maybe they're across town, or across wherever, and you'd just like to know if maybe something has happened to them. Because falls, not the only cause, and I got all these falls on here. I got this one especially for Vincent. I was looking through Google Images. I will say, I have done all of these falls myself, so it's not like I'm not picking on
I appreciate the sentiment.
Okay, and it's not just falls, but other things that might incapacitate a person could happen. And you could put up the Granny cam, but Granny might not like that. But if you, by monitoring the water usage, something we all have to do in normal functionality, looking for changes in that pattern, we can detect, hopefully, when someone maybe has fallen and can't get up or is otherwise incapacitated. So it might work for disabled persons living alone. Kids home after school, I told you to wash your hands, but you didn't use any water, so I don't know how it happened. Anyone who might have an otherwise undetected fall or accident at home. So this is kind of a pro-social, maybe not as large as a protest, but an individual pro-social Internet of Things application, because not all Internet of Things applications are really pro-social. And it's not be for anyone who could have an accident at home. This idea is not original with me. I actually got it from an article in Raspberry Pi Geek magazine. Yes, there was a magazine called that. I did subscribe to it. The guy was named Falco Binton, who was in Germany. He had a very elaborate system using Raspberry Pi. It was a very elegant approach. And he was really pitching this idea of detecting anomalies in some isolated person's behavior by looking at their water use. He had, because he had Raspberry Pi, he had all kinds of camera options and stuff like that too. I've done a much more restricted implementation, sort of a proof of concept. Raspberry Pi Geek, the magazine, is no more, but if you follow that link, you can actually read the original article. And I'm going to use a particle photon, which is a dedicated Internet of Things microcontroller. I think in the first presentation, the gentleman mentioned the 8266. It's basically like that, except Particle provides a cloud ecosystem to help you out with your Internet of Things microcontroller. So, and I'll just show you the parts that I did get done. So, the basic idea is to monitor patterns of household water use with an unobtrusive sensor. So a camera's pretty intrusive, a microphone's intrusive, but watching how much water you use or don't use is not nearly so intrusive. Make that water use data available privately or securely in the cloud, so push it into the cloud. Analyze the water data from the cloud in real time to detect variations from expected patterns. Now, I just have a very simple example here, which is like just, okay, water's running. But obviously, you could extend this a lot in terms of looking for sophisticated patterns. You can see leaks because they're constant small usage. You can see faucet left on because it's constant high usage. You can look at day-to-day variation and compare the variation, amount of variability with what's expected. If water use does not vary, whether it's on or off, that's probably a bad thing. So, also, you could, I'm using the vendor tech, I'm using Flowroute's SMS notification. If I had had a lot of time, I would have used everybody's notification app because you all have them, and I'd be 4 times as likely to win some money, but that's okay. It works really well, and Flowroute is excellent. Their support was good. And basically, we're going to reach out remotely to check on occupant welfare by sending an SMS message to you when something has happened, when water usage has changed significantly. Okay. This is the notional architecture. I guess it's actually built part of it, so it's not completely notional anymore. There's a water sensor, which is just basically a little turbine, and when the water flows through it, it turns the turbine. The turbine turns a Hall effect sensor, which basically is like a switch opening, magnetic switch opening and closing, and the microcontroller counts how many times the turbine is turned. If you know the volume it takes to turn the turbine, and you can tell the exact water usage. I'm actually looking at rate too, so I'm looking at what it was like over a 10-second interval. That's published because Particles API provides you the ability for the microcontroller to publish this to the cloud, and then you can subscribe and get that published information. The app I'm using to subscribe right now is really put together with spit and baling wire. This is a command line application running on my laptop, and it uses a command line interface that Particle provide to subscribe, get the data, parse the data using an awk script and some shell script stuff, use curl to send an SMS message. So it's sort of really, everything from here to here is really old school. So, and of course you get your SMS message. Hopefully I'll be able to demonstrate that if the gods are willing. Okay. I got some screenshots because I'm not adept enough to do the cool Android broadcasting thing that those folks did. I wish I knew how, but I did have the app send a little bar graph that shows you the water usage. So right now, this is like a slow time. This is like fairly high. This is about as quick as you can pump water through my test fixture. And this one just shows intermediate water usage. The idea is that in the application, you would look at these numbers, do some pattern recognition on this or some AI on this, and decide when to message. Now, I'm always going to message if this is non-zero, as you'll see, for now. Okay? So, the code on the photon, which is basically a dialect of C or C++. If you know about Arduino, the microcontroller, you've seen the same thing. And they provide a web IDE for running the software, which is kind of convenient. So you develop it in the web, and you actually update the chip over the web. Everything's done through the cloud. Their libraries offer a publish to the cloud API. That's what I use to push the data into the cloud. And software on my laptop uses Particle's command line app, and awk script and curl to subscribe, parse, and reformat the event that I get from the subscription, and then build and spawn a curl command, which is basically a command line browser if you're not familiar, to call the Flowroute's SMS REST API and send a text message. So that's the data flow. Oh, and demo. So we have a demo. Get the mock ready. So if you, next slide. If you, I'll get my test fixture up here. I was going to call it Mr. Bucket. But unfortunately, Milton Bradley beat me to this in 1992. And I totally called it Mr. Bucket. But I do have my own Mr. Bucket. I'm going to pour water through it, and hopefully you'll be able to hear it text me. So, if you need to go to the restroom, this is probably a good time. We're going to start pouring water, and you can drink all those espresso shots. Well, okay. As originally envisioned, my original demo was going to be much more glorious than this. It involved a garden hose and a pump. I just thought, I'm looking at this carpet, maybe I shouldn't do that. So I have what I believe to be a safe demo, although water and electricity don't really mix. It's never completely safe. So let me get my fixture here. We'll do a live demo. I hope this works. So this is Mr. Bucket 2. Apologies to Milton Bradley. And let me get my cable to plug in my. It's positively comedic hardware, but it's about a serious problem, right? I mean, we have to laugh about these things, and the more inevitable something is, the more you need to laugh about it. And it's inevitable that we get old, it's inevitable that we trip over stuff, it's inevitable that we fall off ladders. So I think that, keep that in mind as you see the absurdity here. This is not actually Ethernet enabled, I'm just using an Ethernet cable to connect my wiring together because they're convenient. So, an internet-enabled bucket, though, is another IoT device that I'm seriously thinking about. And I'm going to plug this together here. Okay. We're all plugged up. All right. And let me switch out of here on the laptop to...
We can rate ourselves.
Yeah. How much can you try?
Let's go.
So,
about this use case?
this is the user interface. Got to take a picture of the user interface. That's it. And let's see if I got my phone should be on. So I'm going to run the software, and well, let me get the water. That's kind of important in this demo. This is my yeah. These are my unit tests. Unit test 1, unit test 2. You guys are probably not unit testing the other day. This is what I used to unit test.
Just think about how much
Repurchased lemonade jugs. Worked pretty well for this. And we'll do test 1 first, not if there's any real difference. Pour the water in. This is very exciting. Think about all that coffee you drank. It's supposed to be a 3-liter funnel, so I put a couple liters in there. And there's a big weight in the bottom to keep from tipping over, by the way. So if I now start the flow, I'll start kind of moderate flow. Wait for that sound, that SMS sounds. Need more water. Oh, we're gonna get it. There it was. And I had the phone around. It has one of those little graphs that I showed you the screenshots earlier showing how much water flowed. Ideally, of course, this program would be a lot smarter than it is. Yeah, I've burned through a bunch of funny money on Flowroute's account. I sent myself 100 by accident the other day, which is easy to do. Essentially, this would enable you, the launching of the program would then make a much more intelligent decision about when to actually send the message. And that's the part I didn't get to. So I think that's it, but let me see if I have any more slides here. Oh, yeah. And the last slide just says, question. Do you have any questions? Yes, sir.
So phase 2 would be a shutoff valve?
Yeah, I thought about that for an electric valve, and I thought about putting that in a demo, but fortunately, I realized, there's my message, that as in all, I've been in software development for a long time, and I still continually underestimate the amount of time that we require to do something. So if I put that valve in, I'd still be at home soldering the valve in instead of talking to you. So,
Perfect.
Other questions? Yes.
I love the idea. Now, why wouldn't you go with like leaks? Because like I just had a leak and I didn't know until I got my bill, and it was 20 times more than what I normally pay. So if I knew like the day of, that would have been super useful.
You could definitely use this for detecting leaks.
I think that.
I tried to pick a more pro-social application, but I guess avoiding $1,000 water bill is pro-social in its own way. So it's also probably possible with some reverse engineering to steal the water flow data off of your water meters, since most of them are now enabled, essentially internet enabled. So I think with software-defined radio, Wireshark, and a lot of patience and access to the internet, you could probably figure out what the meter is sending. So, yes, sir.
Could you scale up and do like this college, for example, that probably has lots of pipes and potentially lots of leaks?
They make these water meters in all sizes and capacities. The technology is basically always the same, just a question of how big the fittings are and how big the turbine is. So it's certainly doable. And I'm pretty sure this is what the water meters that the city uses kind of do. And they're actually more and more, they are internet enabled. Well, I don't know if they're not public internet enabled, but they're mesh networked to one another, for sure. Like your electric meter. Other questions? Thank you very much.